Welcome back, everyone. Today we're going to do a small walkthrough. I have a build coming up for our studio test bench, but one of the things that it needs is I'm going to need to install Windows on it. So today I figured we go through and just set up a Windows install flash drive. And we're just talking about the installer. You know, buying a key, you can buy it from Microsoft directly. You can pick one up at Micro Center, Amazon Newegg. That part is an exercise left up to the viewer as far as purchasing a key. We're just making some install media, and we're going to use Microsoft's official tools to do so. Now, the things that you'll need are two. First is you'll need a computer running Windows something. 7, 8, 10 are all capable of running the Windows installer software. Today we're going to be using my ThinkPad P50 for that, and we're going to set up OBS and do a screen record during the procedure. The other thing that you'll need is a USB flash drive that is at least 8 gigabytes in capacity. And I mean, you can use anything. I've used 2.0 drives like the SanDisk Cruiser Glide, which apparently this one's a 32. I've used 3.0 drives. I know I've used my Lexar 64 gig. Typically, my choice, and you can see I've even actually gone as far to label it, it's just these Micro Center 16 gig USB 3 drives. 8 gigs is the minimum requirement to put the Windows 10 installer on there. 16 gives me enough room to put some additional software and drivers on the flash drive that I use day to day at work. I mean, a Ninite installer, LAN drivers, the most recent NVIDIA driver package, things like the PowerToys installer. There's plenty of room on here for that particular suite of stuff. And we'll go through that when we make our drive. So first up, we're going to fast forward to my laptop ready to go. Alright, so we've got our laptop set up. OBS is recording, so we'll have a record of this. I also went ahead and formatted this clean just so we could see the process as if I had just purchased this drive. And it goes without saying there'll be a couple of links to drives that will be more than adequate for this in the description below. So first thing you want to do, go ahead and go to the Microsoft site. You're looking for the Download Windows 10 page. There'll be a link in the description, but typically if you just punch into your search engine of choice, Windows 10 Media Creation Tool or Download Windows 10, you will get here, or you will get to an article on the Microsoft site that links to here. And we want to create installation media, so we're going to download the tool now, and I'm probably going to make a couple different drives for various things, but that's going to run. And yes, we want to keep it. Thank you, Smart Screen. And it's just going to save in our downloads. And we're going to go ahead and plug this in. And as you can see, I've just got a blank flash drive. No, I don't want Google Drive to back it up. And we're going to run Media Creation Tool 21h1.exe. And there's a couple of different things that we're going to have to tell it to do, most of which is fairly straightforward. Alright, so as always, terms and licenses, pretty typical for Microsoft. First real decision, we're actually going to create install media. We don't want to upgrade this PC now. And there's two different reasons you would want to create the install media. If you just got a new PC from, Dell, Lenovo, HP, and you just want a clean install, use this method and then just do a clean install on the system. The serial key is typically burned into the BIOS these days. If it's an older box, it'll be on the side of it. If you're someone like me, where, I've ordered various pre-built on eBay, they've got serial keys just on the side of them. Or, I support a bunch of systems, and sometimes I do have to reload from scratch, although I try and use images as much as I can. Upgrading the PC now, you could actually use this same tool to forcibly upgrade from, say, 20H2 to 21H1, and presumably there'll be a version of this that upgrades to Windows 11 and isn't that dramatically different whenever that finally launches. So we're going to go ahead and create installation media. The defaults that it picked for this PC match 99% of the systems that I work with. So English, which we can change here if we're dealing with something different. Windows 10s are only choice edition wise, and architecture wise you can do 32-bit, 64-bit, or both. I'm going to pick both just for the sake of... No, I'm going to leave it at 64. Disregard that I said that. So those are the defaults. The only reason you would use 32 is if it was a older system. When I say old, I mean either an early Atom system, which I've got a couple of compute sticks that are still 32-bit. They've only got 2 gigs of RAM anyway. Being 64-bit doesn't do them any good. Or something like a Core 2 Duo, although even that I would still use 64-bit Windows. I mean, my Core 2, 13 years ago at this point, was a 64-bit system with 4 gigs of RAM. But like I said, you can pick 32 if you have something really old. So we're going to use a USB flash drive. As mentioned, it needs to be at least 8 gig. Ours is 16. Anything that I'm going to recommend to you is going to be 16 or 32 gig. Going bigger than that is honestly wasteful because it's going to format the drive as FAT32, and Windows by default, when it makes a FAT32 drive, just leaves the rest as an empty partition. And it recognizes this. This is ESD USB. That's convenient that I don't have any other USB drives in the system, although you can always give it a unique name so that you can detect it. If your drive's not shown in the list, let's go ahead and simulate that. It doesn't see any drives. Just plug in a new drive. Refresh your list, and it'll show up. Wouldn't be the first time anyone plugged in something and it was loose. Hit next. It'll ask to get a few things ready, and then it's basically self-guided at this point. It's going to download the required components and then put them on the flash drive. So we'll be back in, I've got decent Wi-Fi, probably 20 or 30 minutes. This isn't the world's fastest flash drive, but it is fast enough for this. All right, so it's done making the drive. And I mentioned that I'm going to preload some stuff on this, and it's part of why I went with the drive a bit bigger than the minimum. So let's just take a look how much space is left on our 16 gig drive. There's 10 gigs free. Technically, it's just over what you would fit on a 4 gig drive. And part of the reason they recommend an 8 is there are no 5 gig flash drives. They just 1, 2, 4, 8, 16. They go in powers of 2. So I picked this one. Like I said, it gives me a little bit of extra room. And I'm just going to create a new directory on here, a new folder, and I'm going to call it post install. And we're going to put a few things on there. Vivaldi, my browser of choice, Cinebench. I end up using a soft phone fairly often. PowerToys is a great utility suite, and I'll do a video dedicated to that. OBS, which I'm going to need on my test bench, and Shotcut is typically my video editor of choice. And I'm just going to go ahead and put all of that in post install. And while that's copying over, I'm going to go to Ninite, which I could do a whole video on Ninite, but I'm not going to today. And we're going to grab Chrome and Firefox because it always helps to have a couple of extra browsers. This is going to be just my bench system, so I'm not going to load an antivirus, but if you wanted to install Malwarebytes Avast AVG, you could actually do it right here through one bulk installer. Same thing, I'm going to skip Discord and Zoom and Skype, which I have on my main system. So we're going to grab FileZilla, Notepad++. Those always come in handy. Going to grab 7-zip. We're going to grab VLC and Audacity. I'm not going to grab any of these runtimes. Most of these .NETs are typically installed by Windows at this point. Java, take your pick here. I'm going to grab the Oracle versions of Java. Imaging, we might start running some Blender benchmarks. Actually, that's not a bad idea, so we're going to grab it. Don't need Google Drive on the test bench. Don't need any document readers on the test bench. And most of these utilities are somewhat redundant at this point. We're going to grab Steam, because I know I'm going to end up using Steam for some of my game benchmarks. And what this site does, and I have a paid version of it, is creates a bundle installer that you can just run once. And I'm going to save it directly into that post-install folder and walk away. So all of these other things, Vivaldi, Shotcut, Linphone, I have to install one at a time. And some of those you can do, side by side, and it won't yell at you about busy files. This Ninite is just going to go through and install all the things I picked and automatically decline any additional bundleware that comes with them. And I mentioned I have a paid version because I use it at work to support updating some of this software. But it's free for home users. And yes, there's a couple of pieces of software that are excluded from the free version. Back on the main page, there's a note that, these are the pro extras. That's mostly business software. WebEx, Citrix Workspace, TweetDeck, GoToMeeting. I guess consumers might use TweetDeck. LogMeIn, which, some people still use. And I'm not using any of those at the corporate level, although I think we install WebEx because we interact with those. The rest of this is, for the most part, just available in the free version. I think a couple of these Java versions might be excluded from the free version, but you still get Java for Ninite free. And it just goes off and does its thing. Now, there's a agent where I can remotely monitor, 50, 500, 1,000 systems, and that's all great. But none of that matters when I'm just building an installer for our test bench here. Anyway, that's just a little aside. And if you guys are curious about Ninite, I can definitely do a dedicated video on it. And I can do one on the Power Toys as well. This is going to finish copying over these files. So what I can do, I can run my installer, and then off the same flash drive, I can just go to that post-install folder when I'm done installing Windows, and we'll show that procedure soon, and then just run all of the utilities that I know I'll need. I might pack in a couple of extra things in there that I didn't today, since I know there's benchmarks that we're going to need, like 3D Mark. I'll pull in the 3D Mark suite. I didn't have a copy of that on hand to just copy over this particular second. But anyway, that's that. So, like I said, creating a Windows 10 install drive, if you have access to an existing PC, even if it's the PC you intend to do a clean install on, it's really that simple. We've spent maybe 20 minutes. I'll go back and check how long it actually took to make the drive. And I did that probably the slowest way I could have. My laptop's not connected to my wired network. I did it all over Wi-Fi just for convenience sake. And I took time to talk you guys through the whole process. And I'm not even plugged in, so I don't have full CPU power available to me either. I'm running on battery. But anyway, so as always, I want to thank Electrix for providing our opening and closing themes. I want to thank anyone who helps support Pocketables, either by using our Amazon affiliate links or by supporting us on Patreon. It is support like that that helps make videos like this possible. And finally, thank you for watching.